Good morning, excellent students of Automotive. I'm Bob Hopkins. You remember me? As you can see, I have the same outfit on today as I did yesterday. Anyway, it's because this is the same day that I saw you this morning. Now I am happen to be up here videoing this so that you can have something to go by for the second day of our class. As I indicated to you before, this is a 16-week class. We're going to be finished in May, and by then you're going to be public speakers forever. You're going to be leaders. You're going to have the ability to get to know people very easily when you realize that you are as equal to everyone else, or maybe even better, in some people's minds. And if they think you're better, then let it be. Don't tell them you're not. Anyway, look forward to being with you all semester. Now, I did tell you that I would show you what the book is that you're going to buy. And you all do know that you can share it, which means that two of you can purchase this and you can share the book so that you don't have the expense individually to buy the book. It's Human Communication, the basic course. Is the 13th edition by Joseph DeVito. Now, Joseph DeVito has written all of the editions of the book. So therefore, just because it says 13 doesn't mean that the 12th or the 11th would not work. So they might have changed the chapters around, so if you can get the 13th edition, so be it, and do it. All right, so next week, we've already assigned the first two people who are going to present Chapter 1. And they will be doing that on Wednesday of next week. And we'll start off by them making the presentation. They're going to use Prezi, and they're going to be talking to you about Chapter 1 and what Chapter 1 has in it. There were several things that I talked to you about today that I want to just review very quickly, because I did talk a lot, obviously, and very shortly you all are going to be doing all the talking every Thursday. Every Wednesday you all are going to be talking. Let me talk about the elevator pitch, which you're going to be doing next week. We're going to play like you're on the elevator and you see somebody that's on the elevator and you decide you want to get to know who they are. And so you'll say to them, tell me more about yourself. And of course, it's going to be me or one of the students in the class who are going to say, tell me about yourself. And of course, it's going to be a natural conversation of some kind. Oh, how are you doing? I see you have an Eastfield College shirt on. I see that you have a Honda shirt on. I'm very curious because, I have a Honda. I love my Honda. I've been having some problems though, however, but anyway, because you're Honda, I know your quality and you're a great person. So tell me a little bit about who you are. And then you, of course, in 1 minute, and we'll have somebody with a timer clock you, and you're going to talk a little bit about who you are. And it would be something like, my name is Bob Hopkins, and I happen to work in this building that we're in right now. I work on the 12th floor. I have an office there, but typically I'm a college professor. And I teach speech, and I teach communications. And I've developed a new course at the University of Texas in Arlington, which is called Social Entrepreneurship. But what brings me to today, and what brings me to you all here, and et cetera, for a minute, and that's going to be your elevator speech, will allow you to let people know who you are. The who, what, where, when, why, and maybe how those things happen to make you become the person that you are today. You might even talk a little bit about your future. I'm in Eastfield College, and I'm in the automotive department. And what my plan is to finish my associate's degree in automotive whatever. And my hope is that I go to work for Honda. And maybe not Honda, but maybe another car company that can use your services. And what you hope to have happen to you in 5 years or whatever. But then give a little history about where you were born, about your family, if you think that's appropriate. What are your hobbies? What are the things that you love? Do you have dogs and cats? Do you have horses? Do you have brothers and sisters? Do you have a girlfriend? Are you married? Do you have children? Those kinds of things would be important as well. Number two thing we talked about was we divided in twos for 6 weeks for those of you who are going to give a recap of each of the chapters of the book, starting with Chapter 1. And this coming Wednesday, we'll do Chapter 1. two of you have been chosen to do chapter 1 with a Prezi. And a Prezi is Prezi.com, and you'll go into it, and you will pick one that is free, no charge, and you will do what they say to do. And each of these slides, or each of the times you push the button, it will change, and another circle will come in, or a box, or a square, and you can pick the background. And what I want you to do, though, is to start with the story. Now, you've read chapter 1, let's just say, and you find out that it's about the beginning of communication, how we communicate. And you can talk a little bit about it. You can give an example of maybe how you were on Facebook and how you communicate on Facebook, and how often you communicate on Facebook, and who are your friends on Facebook. And maybe you might give an example of when you accidentally sent a message on Facebook to somebody that you didn't intend to, like a picture. And of course, once you send a picture to somebody, it's there forever, and the embarrassment that you had to go through. I've actually had that experience just in the emails, to accidentally send an email to the wrong person. I have a friend named Larry, and I have a boss named Larry, and I sent Larry the boss the message that I hoped to send to Larry the friend, and it wasn't appropriate to the receiver, Larry the boss, with the information that he got from that was supposed to be for Larry the friend. So that would be an example of how I miscommunicated and how I used the communication efforts to inappropriately send the information. Anyway, it happens every day. Everybody miscommunicates somehow. And as you remember, I gave you the example of my mother, who told my father to go to hell. And my father said, okay, I will. And I wanted to know, as a 5-year-old boy, where it was hell. And I was scared to death that my father wasn't going to come back, and because he was going to go to hell. And I remember it forever. But that's because my mother misspoke. And maybe it was because she was drinking alcohol. Whatever. It was not appropriate. So I'm very cognizant of saying something that I mean instead of something I don't mean. And sometimes when I say something I mean, it might be said in the wrong way, that they misinterpret how I say it, or why I say it, or what I say. I remember one time also when I was communicating by email, and the people who were receiving my email wrote back and said, "Why are you so mad?" And I said, "I'm not mad. I'm just telling you how I feel." And what happened was everything was in capital letters. And so it sounded very, 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 very inappropriate, basically, because of the fact they thought I was mad. So I had to pick up the phone and call them and say, "You know what, I'm really not mad." And so that kind of cooled things down, obviously, but how you say things on email sometimes can be misinterpreted as well. So this communication process is incredible. And the magic of it, and the answer to all of this, is that we have to think about what we're going to say before we say it, and we have to put it into a structure, the information that we're thinking about saying, that is appropriate and that is not too harsh. Sometimes I'm accused of being too direct, which means I'm too honest. Sometimes I will say something to criticize someone and say, "You're too fat." I don't mean that. It means that, gosh, you've certainly changed your body a little lately. It's very hard to compliment, for instance, people without using the wrong expressions or the wrong words. When you think within yourself first, it's called intrapersonal relationships. INTRE, personal. Intra means inward, talking to yourself. First, before you communicate or send a message to someone else, which then is called interpersonal. INTERTER. So inter and intra. Know the difference, and the book wants you to know the process of communicating and making sure that you just don't talk off the top of your head. I'm going to use Trump a lot as a communicator because I don't think he's the best communicator that we've ever seen. I think Obama's a fabulous communicator. Obama is leaving the White House at 60% approval rate, where I saw today that Trump is coming into the White House with 32% approval rate. It's the lowest approval rating for any president ever to come into the White House. And Obama has the third largest a positive approval rating of all the presidents in the last 40 years. The first approval rating has come from Clinton. The second came from Reagan, and the third has been Obama. And it's because Obama thinks before he speaks. Trump has a low approval rating because I don't think he thinks before he speaks. And many times he offends. And I don't think that he necessarily means everything that he says. At least Ivanka, his daughter, says, "If you only knew my father's heart." Well, we don't know the father's heart if the words come across inappropriate or negative. So that is the difference between, let's say, Obama's approval rating of 60% and Trump's approval rating at 32%. Maybe it's the communication process that each of them use appropriately and then, in Trump's case, inappropriately. Now, I don't know what the approval rating is necessarily so of all the people that know me. I think people love me, and I think there's people who are just, oh, okay, well, what about Bob Hopkins? Well, da-da-da-da-da-da. I've had students love me. I've had students not so. And maybe I inappropriately said the wrong things to a person. Sometimes when I tell people to take off their hats in class, most people say, oh, okay, that's no problem. And others, I had one student who said, I don't want to take off my hat. So before I said something to him, I had to think, why didn't he want to take off his hat? I said to take off your hat. I'm the teacher. I'm the person who's older. I'm the one who is in control here. Why won't he take off his hat? I asked him to do that. But before I say something else to him that's inappropriate, I have to think. Maybe I should just shut up. And maybe I should wait till another time. In the case of the person who didn't want to take off his hat, I let him wear his hat for the rest of the class. I didn't act out. I didn't say anything inappropriate. I didn't want to make him any madder, and I didn't want to cause a scene in my class in front of the other classmates. So when I dealt with it, I dealt with him on a personal basis outside of class and said, you know, we miscommunicated here. I apologize if I offended you for asking you to take off your hat. But this is a rule of my class. And if you don't like it, we need to figure out another way. And he said, you know, I'd rather drop your class than have to take off my hat. I just got out of prison, and I had my hat on for the last 13 years, and I don't feel comfortable taking off my hat. I'll have to drop your class and take another class. I decided that he could wear his hat, but he would have to sit at the back of the room so that he wouldn't be causing any distractions for the other students who also wanted to wear their hats. And that maybe he could decide at some point that taking off his hat would be appropriate for him and the classroom. You know what? The next day he came to my class holding his hat. He never put it on again, and he ended up being one of my best students. And I think it was because of the way I handled the communication process, which I could have really messed things up, and he could have reported me to the president and to the dean, and he could have dropped out of class or whatever. And he had some sort of a hang-up that I didn't understand, but I needed to take the time to think about what I say to him before I responded, and I did. So anyway, that's just an example of the communication process that you hopefully will think about as you continue to be a student of mine in my class. Okay, now the elevator speech is going to be for next week. You're going to do a Dear Diary. Why are you the person that you have become? Why are you the person that you have become? Just to tell you a little bit more about that, it's so that I can have a better understanding of who you are, so that I can have a feeling about how I can help you as an individual. Since we have so few students in the class, I think I'll be able to have more time with each of you during our 16 weeks. I'll get to know you, you'll get to know me.